Today on Honestly, Dear Listener, we're talking to visual artist and comedian Katie Bowman about being a woman in the comedy scene.
We're discussing issues that arise like getting booked, acceptance, and how quitting drinking has affected her career.
We're two childhood best friends talking about artistic mindset.
I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer, and this is Honestly, Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo! Welcome!
Katie Bowman.
Hello.
Thank you for being here with us.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
How do you two know each other? What's the connection?
We took an improv class together.
We did in Denver, and it was really fun. I hadn't lived in Denver for very long at all, and the first people I really met were the folks in that improv class, including Katie. So
Yeah, it was fun.
we bonded over a macaroni salad.
Oh my God, that salad that you made was so good.
And we've kept in touch since then. So Katie is an amazing artist and comedian. And in fact, if you've ever seen my jackets that I wear to shows with skeletons painted on the back, that is Katie's work.
Yes, thank you.
Nice. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
I just recorded my first comedy album in December. And
Congratulations.
special, it's both. I guess you can release them both separately, but album first, special, everyone's doing their own YouTube specials now. And I did record it for that. I think the album will come out first. But yeah.
And you did that with a label, right?
Yes. My friend,
awesome.
Brandie Posey, who's also a comedian and podcaster, she started her own record label called Burn This Records, because she wanted to help other comics get on a label so that they could make money from their albums. So she started her label, and then it became there's like multiple people on it.
That's
awesome.
super exciting.
Woohoo!
That's awesome.
Mhm. It's like good to go see people's recordings and stuff,
Absolutely.
A year before I was just at Janae Burris's album recording, and it was really I feel like it was really helpful also to see somebody's recording and how they did it.
What is your recording about? What's kind of the theme?
Well, it's just stand up, and so a
Okay.
lot of it is just kind of who I am. A little origin story, I guess, of my family jokes. I have jokes about my family. I have jokes about being an artist. I have jokes about working at Planned Parenthood. And so it was a lot of my material, and that was also a reason why I was I want to record, because I don't work there anymore. I quit in 2022, and I've just been writing more jokes. And it's I love these jokes, but it's I'm not here anymore. And so I'm you just want to keep moving on.
Mhm. Yeah.
But take a snapshot of that moment in time so that you can kind of lock those jokes into place. It's like a historical time that you don't want to have disappear.
I don't want to record them. I don't want to not record them. It's funny. I talk to other comics and they'll be I don't think I'm at a place where I want to record an album yet, because I feel I'm very different than who I was when I started. And I'm emotionally, yeah. But I still feel I'm generally that person. And it's also a part of who you are, it kind of sets you up. If you look, everybody's first album is so different than the specials and albums they put out later, especially if they get famous. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons that is. A lot of the time it is like music, where it's you do the same jokes until they get to a point where you want to record them. And I mean, if you watch one of Maria Bamford's specials on Netflix, I'm trying to think of which one what the name of it was, but it's the one where she shows it at different locations. It's there to show you that the joke is never told the exact same. You can tell the same joke in many different ways, and that's a beautiful thing. But also I think it's a good thing to keep writing and like say goodbye to a bunch of material that, especially if you're sick of telling it. Like, I feel like that's very obvious on stage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like you need to archive it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's what I wanted. Yeah, I was like, this is just my jump off point, and I think it will help, just get my name out there a little bit. I'm not expecting fame. Like, I know it's a hard and long road for an artist. But for me, also, I just was been thinking about like how much 2020 has changed entertainment industry just as a complete whole. And, you know, you just really don't know when your time's up. And so I was like, I need to put some shit out there because I don't know when I'll die. And I know that's like weird and paranoid, but like, I mean, I know a lot of people who've passed away, and like, there's a comic who passed away years ago when I was like newer in comedy, Jordan Wieleba, and she had a special and or an album, but special album, and like, I'm just so glad that she had it because we have an hour of her material, because she died in such a sudden way that like it was really sad and heartbreaking for the scene. Especially, she was like super nice and like one of the first people in the comedy scene. People were not nice like they are now, but now it's like a fake nice. You know what I mean? Like, it's that. But she was like a genuine person, and she like was very encouraging to me when I first started comedy. And it just like made me realize, like, record the album for you and the people that love you, because people do love you and they want to have something to remember you by.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, I have all the artwork and all these little trinkets of people who passed away that I cherish deeply, and I wish I had more for them, and so I feel like it's never enough. And so why not, like,
that's right.
You gotta, what did Franzen used to tell us in improv class? He was like, clap for yourself or no one will.
Yes, at the end of your sketch, you're like, yes. He's like, clap for yourself.
Yeah, I know, like, that pops in my head like all the time.
Totally. And it's true. I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this stuff lately with music, that like most of us won't achieve like huge fame. And I don't know how much we would even really like that if we did get it.
No, I don't think I want to be like huge.
Like, yeah, Katie, everywhere you go. But
yeah,
like you do you build your audience, you build your fans, and you perform for them. Like, that's who we're trying to find, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you make things for those people. It's not like you think you've gotten to some level that now you're like, I'm ready for an album. It's like, I think you would never be ready. You just have to make things for yourself and the people that want to hear it. And I think that's awesome.
I see what happens to people when they get famous really quickly, and I'm like, oh, that's like scary. Like, it's just like kind of scary, and no matter how loved you are, there's also a huge percentage of hate that comes at you. And it's also a good reminder that like you're just on a lower level. Like, you can seem very personal when someone doesn't like you, but it's like I try to remind myself, I'm like, okay, Lizzo literally gets so much hate every day, and she's amazing. Same thing with Swift. Same thing with Billie Eilish came out as queer and lost 100,000 followers. Like,
it's insane. I mean, and you've had to deal with your fair percentage of trolls on the internet that you don't know and that you do know, right?
If you are a female comedian or any woman putting yourself out there, you're gonna get trolled.
So how do you deal with that?
When it's me, I can like, I just try to like improv off of it, like I end it.
Like, so you use it?
Yeah, like, because I feel like I usually get called fat, and I usually get called, or I'll be called not funny.
Ugh.
And I'll be like, I don't know, like maybe check, like listen back to it because there's laughs in this video. So
I saw that someone said on
oh
your
yeah,
that you were using a laugh track on your
someone thought I was
video.
using a laugh track, and I was like, no, it's just that club is very nice. Comedy Works is a very sweet audience. I don't know what it is, but also someone also was like, oh, she be paying actors to laugh because no one's that funny. And I, like, yeah, I'm paying people to laugh in an audience. What the fuck? Who would do that? That's like such a waste of money.
Yeah, how much money do you think I have that I could
I'm
pay
poor
people
as
to
hell, man. Yeah. I'm not Dave Chappelle, okay? Like, just kidding. I just feel like people see a big name once you're that famous, and they're just like, I'm going to support whatever he says, even though he's just spewing literal like hate speech about trans people right now. But like, and he was a funny person before he got to like this crazy place. But like, you get to a point where sometimes you're just too famous to be relatable. I mean, it happens to a lot of people.
I think a version of that happens to many people. I mean, we talked a couple episodes ago about when you get what you want or what you've been looking for and how it's like weird and disappointing a lot of the time because you realize there's probably so much more, either so much more to do or this is it. And I think people get to a point with their careers that it's like they either go crazy and have to make a big difference and like disrupt things, or they just start getting really fucked up. Like people have drug problems or alcohol abuse problems because it's like, this is it.
No, I mean, 100%. Like, look at Miley Cyrus. Like, she exploded into this like crazy, I'm gonna be shocked, just complete shock stuff. And then she got a little bit older and she was like, oh, that's like bad. And it's like, you just, people go through waves, but it's interesting because it is like where your mindset's at. I also feel so bad for just like anyone who is a child actor.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's already hard enough, like growing up and trying to figure out who you are. And hell, I'm almost 40 and I'm still kind of like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? And what do I even want? So like to be a child star and have to grow up in that with all of those questions is insane.
Yeah, totally.
So,
I just saw like a TikTok of Amanda Bynes.
Oh, yeah.
And it like, I'm happy that she's like on the up and up, but I'm just like, man, this industry is not kind to people.
Yep.
And then we're all kind of like fighting to get to that place in a way where everyone, it's like a freaking sinkhole up there, you know? So it's just so strange to be, I mean, like, it's not bad that we're all just trying to do better and get more eyeballs and ear holes. It takes a toll on people. I mean, you've been doing some tour stuff recently and like opening for some big people. Can you please say it? Because I want you to talk about it, because I know that you tell me these things. You don't have to, but like you don't talk about it. And I want people to know, like, a couple of big things have happened.
Yes. Well, I got to open in the last couple of years. I got to open for Atsuko Okatsuka twice, which was insane. Like, and just meeting her, she's so sweet and so humble, and she's beautiful. And her and Ryan, her husband, is like just so supportive and helpful, and like, she was very inspiring. Like, I learned so much just from like little conversations with her, like how she really went and grew her own audience all on her own. Like, she didn't try to go through clubs and stuff. And, you know, everybody makes you feel like comedy clubs are the only option. But I feel like comedy clubs, like, yeah, put your eggs in every basket, but like they know who they want, you know, and like unless you're a guarantee filler for them, or you have someone in there that's extremely vouching for you, you know, it's like, why not just work on your own, like build your own um platform and followers and everything, and make those people come to you. And that's what she did. I also got to host for Laurie Kilmartin last year, and that was really cool. And I got to do a show with Maria Bamford last year as well, and that was like insane. Like, because it was just spots. It's like it's called Better Half, and it's Carrick Plank and Jared Logan's show out in Los Angeles. And there's like a lot of amazing comics on it. Like my friend Vanessa Gonzalez was on it, Adam Conover was on it, Jackie Cation. She had to go up first because she had another show, and so I had to follow her. And I was just like, okay. And you know, like you get to open and do shows with like famous people or people you look up to in the industry all the time, and a lot of the time they're like triple booked, so they're in, they're out. I just don't expect them to watch my set ever. But she stayed and watched my set, and it went really well. And then like after my set, she was like, great job, you're so funny. And I was just like, oh my god. And like I was like, I didn't want to talk about it because I was like, oh, I don't want to like brag or anything. But it was like one of those moments where it's like someone you really look up to just enjoying you. It was crazy. Like, it's crazy just being on stage with someone you really look up to is like, and you can hear them laughing at your set. Like, same thing with Laurie and Atsuko. It's like you hear them. You can all like you hear all these laughs, and then you just hear their laugh like off to the side, and you're like, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Yeah, and it's like you know, you never know who you're gonna be on a show with when you're traveling too. And so it's just like a good feeling when you make someone laugh who's like more successful, and someone you look up to that's like a great writer, you know.
Yeah,
that's so amazing. Thank you for sharing, because I'm like, I just want you to like say it out loud. Like
it is exciting. I try to be like, you know, I don't want to brag, and I don't want to like everybody's working hard, but it's nice because, you know, I'm not passed at my local club, so a lot of the local people who are passed get open for big names all the time. And so it really means something when someone reaches out to you specifically. Like Atsuko reached out to me on Instagram, like, and that was before like right as she was blowing up, you know.
That's amazing. So what does it mean when you say you aren't passed?
So getting passed at a club means you're on their pay roster, like you're a featured comic there. Like I do unpaid shows at Comedy Works all the time, like their open mic, which is a showcase. And you do that, and then eventually if they like you, you can get passed, but not everybody gets passed at any club. It's hard because, I mean, every club only has so many spots. And I will say, you know, it's clubs everywhere don't have a lot of women or BIPOC people. I mean, it's getting better. In some places, it's awesome. And there's a few clubs out there that I love that do try to mix it up and have unique lineups and stuff. But, like, it's hard because I think it also makes those people kind of compete against each other, you know? And so I also don't really love that, because I do feel like comedy's like music, where it's like, why can't there just be room? If you're good, why can't there just be room to rotate people, you know?
That's right. That's right.
But
and pitting people against each other, that makes, like, what is the comedian community like? I mean, is that because I know that like theater communities are difficult. With music communities, it's like sometimes people are cool, sometimes it's hard, sometimes you can like work together, sometimes it's like resistant because of being pit against each other. Like, what does it feel like to be, because you're now in like a lot of different communities, right? You're in Denver, but you're doing performances everywhere else. What is that like?
It's so, it's so sad because when you start comedy, you are so excited, and you have all these fires in your eyes. You're just excited to be there. And when I started, there were not a lot of women in the Denver comedy scene. It's not a welcoming community when I started, but once you prove yourself, people start to warm up to you. The niceness, there's like a fake niceness going around where people just want to like be nice, but it's like not genuine. There's an entitlement now, and I think that's maybe it's because of social media, people, because you can blow up online, but you don't have the stage practice. And so there's this weird thing happening. Like lots of TikTokers are like selling out venues. And then you see like people are like, oh, they were terrible. And it's like, well, they haven't been on stage. They're not used to like being live, like there's a lot to go off of just learning, getting your reps in. But so I've always loved it, but I think the longer you get in this industry, sometimes, the longer it is, the more you kind of realize, like, there's a lot of choosing and humoring people that you're not always a fan of, or using, there's a lot of people where I'm like, I don't know if that person likes me, but I'm nice to them. And I used to try so hard to just kill everybody with kindness, and I still do, but like this year, I'm just in a place where I'm like, you know what, if you don't want to fuck with me, I don't want to fuck with you. Because I'm so sick of like, there's so much of this like people that are like, hey, can you help me out with this, can you do this for me, like, can you, and then nobody, like a lot of the time those people don't give it back to people. And I think all the comedians that I love and that I look up to, they leave their ego at the door. And there's this ego, like, tripping shit going on right now where everyone's like, I deserve the best. And I'm like, okay, like, can we just also not take ourselves so seriously while, like, it's already hard enough. It's already, like, competitive. Like, what is this without having at least a community? And, it's tough because I also think sometimes, like, if you speak up about certain issues, like, especially women in comedy, people want you to be a good hang, and they want you to, that's Bill Murray's words, not mine.
What's a good hang for all of those people out there that don't know?
You let them treat you how they treat you, and you don't speak up, and you keep your mouth shut and smile and look pretty.
Musicians say that too. Like all the people that get hired for bands, they say like, we want you to be a good hang, because there's two sides to it, because it's like, yeah, we don't want drama, like people just being dicks to each other, but at the same time, if bad things are happening, you need to be able to speak up. That's not being a good hang. Like what you've been saying is like, if you're drawing boundaries and you're actually speaking up for other people, then you're like disagreeable. And if you're a woman who's sticking up for yourself or other women, then you're just like a crazy bitch who's trying
difficult
to like
woman
ruin the fun for everybody.
It's awful. Like, I just stuck up for somebody who was getting bullied, and now I can already feel people pulling away from me in the scene. And the people who were bullying her, their careers are not going to be messed. And they got to do more stuff in the last month than when before that, and they weren't even out like ever. Like I never see them out supporting shows at mics or anything, and then suddenly now they're out, they're getting things. They're like in it. Just for me, it's like I feel like men will just always support other men and they'll always take care of each other, and women do not get that same respect. I mean, look at history. Look at Sinead O'Connor, you know, like people just chewed her up and spit her out. Kathy Griffin's a great example. She, you know, did that photo with the Trump mask that was bloody. She lost all her bookings for like 5 years. She tried to kill herself. Like, and she like, and it's funny because like men, like people will be like, they're canceled. And it's like, no, they're not. They just go find another place to perform in. Chris D'Elia should be like in jail. He's a pedophile, but he still gets to perform all over. He's still on all the social media apps that children are literally on, but he's not canceled at all. He's performing. Cosby got acquitted, you know. Look at Marilyn Manson. He's like, how dare these exes try to ruin my career? It's like, bitch, you raped them and you like literally beat them up and tortured them. Like, fuck your career.
Yeah, but Kathy Griffin can't hold a mask that's like saying something and without it being like, well, what a crazy lady, just being so like terrible. It's so hard. Also, like going back to you saying the boundary, like basically like you have to figure out your boundaries in these scenes too, with people needing stuff from you and then you having to be like, okay, how much energy can I spend to help someone if I will never get it back? Like that is really difficult to navigate.
The further you get in comedy and the more success you get more people in your DMs asking for advice, and they'll be like, I'm a huge fan of you, I really like you, I look up to you, oh my god, we're friends. And then you give them some honest feedback and they unfriend you, block you, they don't talk to you anymore. It's just like, you know, like, hey, like, just put in the work. If you want my time, please ask, like, you know. And it's funny though, because, you know, at least in something, this is like another weird gender confusion. But I'll have a lot of like women or queer people will be like, can I buy you coffee and pick your brain? Can I pick your brain? You know? But men will be like, I need help. And you're like, oh, okay. You want me to just give you some booby? Like, you need some knowledge? They just don't even offer anything, you know? It's just like crazy. There's so many outlets to find this information.
We talked a little bit before that you have made the decision that you were not going to drink anymore. That has got to, because when you think about comedy clubs, you think about alcohol, laughing, you know, like those go hand in hand, it seems. And so what is that like then, being a comic then that doesn't drink?
I quit drinking because last year I got diagnosed with fatty liver disease. My family did genetic testing and we have a gene, we're genetically predisposed for it. And I went on Accutane in 2020 and my liver enzymes shot up. I also stopped having an eating disorder at that time. So I feel like, you know, from what I read in recovery, your body just gains weight because you've been starving it and all this stuff. But Accutane is also really hard on your liver, and my enzyme spiked almost to like 100 something, and they were like, we just don't feel comfortable continuing you on this medication. We also want you to go see your PCP about this. So I went to my PCP, and then they did blood panels for like 2.5 years, and then finally they were like, oh, we should do an ultrasound. And then they did an ultrasound, they're like, your liver's pretty fatty. I'm like, and they're like, it's because you're fat. And I was like, well, why don't I just also quit drinking? And they're like, no, it's a different part of your liver. Fatty liver disease is more like diet and exercise. And so I did quit drinking just to see if it would help. And I don't think I've lost any weight. I also have thyroid disease. I'm in recovery from having an eating disorder. Like my metabolism is like a sloth. I did that, and then my liver enzymes went down like almost immediately. And then another doctor was like, well, you're obviously changing your habits. And I was like, not really. I just stopped drinking, like it's so much gaslighting. And so then I got an ultrasound in the fall, and it's completely healed now. There's no signs of fat on my liver. So when all this was happening, when I went on Accutane, I knew it was bad for your liver. And I read a book called Quit Like a Woman. And it's by Holly Whitaker. And okay, like just full disclosure, it kind of ruins alcohol for you. When she just talks about how bad it is for you. And so I read it because I knew that Accutane's hard on the liver, and I was like, okay, you're in a bar scene all the time. Like, you have to be careful. You can't just be drinking. So I read it, just kind of like, okay, let's like reassess our relationship with alcohol. And it's just kind of been in my mind since then. And then, my liver enzymes, all this stuff happened, and I noticed like I was just not feeling well after drinking. Also, alcohol makes me like hyper emotional. And in the book, she tells you like, you think alcohol relaxes you, but it actually like just releases like dopamine and stuff, and then your body starts to like withdraw from it. So that's why sometimes if you have a lot of alcohol, like the next day you might have some like racy anxiety. And so I knowing that, I started noticing it, and then I noticed like in my stand-up that I would do better without it, and I'd have more control on stage. Like I feel like I'd be more I realized it was like actually making me like more anxious. And so I quit drinking. Like I started just like thinking about it, like, how much do I like this? And then, it's gotten more emotional. Like I feel like before 2020, I was like, my career was taking off. It was amazing. And then 2020, like reset everything. None of the credits transferred over. There's like a whole new comedy scene of people that were just out during the whole time. And also people moved online, and those people are prospering. And so I found myself like, I felt like alcohol was just making me feel like I had less control. And so being in now that I quit, I just like reminded myself that like, you're going to be way more relaxed without it than with it. And that's just like the truth for me. But I actually found that like I have more control when I'm not drinking on stage. And like I also have ADHD, and there's like studies that say that like people with ADHD like to be around drunk people because it makes people without ADHD act like they have it, because you start saying things on a whim. You're not filtering yourself. Your language is broken up the way that we talk. Like we have lots of filler words. I say like a lot. Changing directions of conversations and stuff. And so I also realized like with time that like, oh, like I'm a much happier person without alcohol. And it really depresses me actually. And then also I don't have like a stop button when I am drinking. Like I'll just be like, let's keep going. And it's like, you think you're good at drinking and then you're like, no, I'm not. And it's also nice because like I don't have to worry about driving anywhere, like I can drive wherever I want. I can save that money and stuff. I guess I thought it was like fun for me, but then I look back on my life and I'm like, I think I was just trying to escape a lot of the time with alcohol.
Do you feel a pressure from other people or other comics or people that you're with to drink when they're drinking?
I actually don't. There's a lot of sober people in comedy. I'm sure that's the same in music, if you have a drinking problem, no one's gonna be like, yeah, drink, dude. But audience members will like come up to me with like beers and shots, and I'm like, oh, sorry, like I don't drink, but I'll take a shot of water with you, like. But I think it's actually one thing that actually helps, because I would get so emotional if anything went wrong, and like not drinking, I don't get that emotional like that anymore. But also that book, like it just tells you all this stuff that like kind of ruins it for you. In the book, she also talks about how it's like super advertised to women specifically. In the United States, there's like a 30% gap between men and women of who drinks more, and like how many women are actually dying of cirrhosis of the liver like in their 40s.
Wow.
And it's because like there's so many women that are like just that like there is all this advertising like wine 30, like I'm like like there's people make it like a personality, like there's wall decor and like all these things and stuff, and it's more dangerous than weed, but it's one of the most acceptable substances you can use. My friend works in the ER, and she says the worst withdrawals that they get are alcohol and opiates, and you actually can die from those withdrawals.
Emily, what is that like in the music industry? Do you feel like there's a pressure to drink? And if you're not drinking, then it's almost like you're not fully joining in. And what is it? Hanging?
A good
well?
hang.
A good hang? Yeah.
I feel like it's there. I think like I definitely drink. And I've started to listen to that book. It's like Naked Mind or something like that. And it's a similar book that I think I'm not fully ready to hear because it's ruining it for me.
Yeah, like once you hear the truth, it's like, whoa,
because it's a poison, right?
Yeah.
When I follow a cadaver dissection Instagram account, and they talk about like
because Carrie's obsessed with guts, just so you know.
Same here. I
Basically,
follow all that stuff too. Yeah. Okay.
So they have a whole thing that's like, this is what alcohol does from the second it hits your tongue. I mean, it affects every single system going all the way down until it's finally, you pee it out or whatever, and or evaporate it out. And it is crazy the amount of systems that it affects negatively, and we don't talk about it like it's a poison, but that's truly what it's doing to the body.
It literally is a poison. I mean, in the book, it's This Naked Mind, I think it's called. She says, animals, their instincts tell them by the taste of something or the smell of something what's poison to them. And if we think back to our first time trying alcohol, and even our first few times, we were like, ugh, this tastes bad. And then people are like, you'll get used to it. And it's like, oh yeah, you'll get used to poisoning yourself. And it's fun to to make your system be like fighting a poison so hard that it makes you weird. But to answer your question, Carrie, I think so. For me, I feel like I would miss drinking in some of those settings with music. But also, I think it is just ingrained that that's like what you do. It's just, and also growing up in a small town, there was nothing else to do. Like that's,
same.
A lot of your friends in music were just drunk half the show. Or so, I mean, I did a show with someone that he was so drunk he couldn't hold the microphone. I ended up taking over the gig, But anyway, yeah, I think it does affect people. And in fact, though, most of the really high level musicians that I know don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's starting to be a thing that the younger generation is being like, this isn't good, but it's like big alcohol's coming for you. They want cigarettes.
Yeah, it's all advertised to us. And It's crazy too, because for me, what I started to like about it is that I kind of feel like I'm a kid again on stage, like you're nervous, your feelings are real. You're not just numbing yourself so that you can be there. You're feeling everything. And there's some beauty in that. And I also read my diary in therapy, and I'm writing a joke about this right now, but like I got dumped and I was like, it's okay. I'm just going to go be a cool party girl. And it's like, oh my God. You like have literal writing of like where your like escapism started. That's crazy.
Yep. I remember a moment where I realized I could drink whenever I wanted, and I like drank way too much for the next couple years because
same here.
I remember it being like a moment where I had a really hard thing happen and someone was like, I'll get you a drink. And I was like, thank you. And in my mind, I was like, oh, it feels really good to have someone be like, here, take that feeling away. And I was
let's
like,
get wasted.
Yeah. Like I had never thought of it like that before, that moment,
Yeah. See, and then suicide also runs in my family. And there have been times where I was drunk and I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh God, like I was planning to kill myself last night. And I know that's really dark, but like,
no,
it's like, I don't think I would have gone that, like my thoughts wouldn't have escalated that quickly without alcohol.
I'm sorry that you went through that.
Yeah.
No, thank you. It's okay. Well, I mean, it's not, I'm good now. But
Yay, I'm glad.
It's like you just take rejection and criticism so much harder sometimes when you're drunk.
Lowering inhibitions sometimes can be fun, but lowering inhibitions about really serious things is not good.
I feel like I've met so many artists that have a fear that they can't do their art or unless they're drinking, or that they're their truest, most honest versions of themselves when they are drinking.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. People say that all the time.
Have you all felt that way?
Oh, the first time I took an improv class, I took 2 shots of tequila in my car before, and I was like, looking back on that, I'm like, I just went in there just to like zip zaps up, like
That's an improv game. The zip zap zap
game where you like pat, like I go zip and you go zap, and then we like do it. And
zip zap zap. And she just like, I just zipped that zap. That was great.
But it's like you get in there, you're like, okay, these are just games. Why do you feel it's like a social anxiety? But it's also like that's how it's marketed towards you, And my dad has always been a huge fan of alcohol, and even when I was a little kid, he was like, taste this, isn't that good? And I remember there's this excitement about it. And I grew up in Dallas, which isn't a small town, but it is a dumpster fire. And if you've seen the show Euphoria, I was like, that's my high school life. Like, why was I drinking with 30-year-olds when I was in high school? Like, oh my God. But it's all because, I didn't fit in. I was like always an outspoken, tender, like artistic person. And like, Dallas, Texas, it's like blonde, big hair, like hottie gals. And I was like, I'm gonna look like a grandma at school. Like, and so it just, I think I wanted to escape, and that was like a way for me to escape, is like starting drinking and stuff. And then
to be in the social scenes too, right? Because then
totally,
you're like, cool,
to be like, look what I can do. I can shotgun a beer. And it's like, you realize like, oh, this is like not helping me. Well, and just the darkness that I would get when I would drink, I was like, oh my God, like, and like, I don't know. I think I've had some trauma in my past. And so when I drink, my brain just goes there now. And so like an associative thing for me too.
Yeah.
For sure.
I often feel like I don't know, I don't want to ever come across as I'm being judgmental or anything like that. I so want my friends to feel supported in the decisions that they make. How can a person support their friends in their journey to make art and not drink?
I always tell all my friends, I'm like, dude, you can drink it. Like, I have really done some therapy and like read some books. And I mean, it is like we said, Emily, like it's like this pulling back the curtain of what alcohol is. Like once you see the truth, it's like really hard to be like, oh yeah, fuck that. Because you're like, oh my god. But so I just think, and it's the same thing with like, I spent my whole life being such a little instrument of diet culture. Like my mom was always, a lot of my comedy, like for my first album, is like about my mom just like trying to get us to be accepted and thin, because like I feel like for a lot of boomers, your kids are like a reflection or extension of who you are, which is shitty. But like so I like really succumbed to just like body image and stuff. And I had never, until I finally read a book where it was like, changing the perspective of what like being a fat person is in society. And it's like some people's bodies are just chubbier bodies. Like, does it mean that they're less healthy and stuff? Like they just carry more weight on their bodies, and that's okay. And there's a lot of different reasons for why people carry weight in different ways. And so for me, and then it was like, in one of these books I read, it was like, you might get frustrated with people around you while they obsess over these habits that you are releasing yourself from, so like examples would be like, this is why I drink, or oh, I'm so ugly, I'm so fat. And it's like, try to remind yourself that like these people just haven't learned or heard this perspective yet, so they're still in this mindset of what they've been told their whole life. And it's really hard to leave behind a mentality of something that you grew up believing. I mean, look at Catholics. Like we're never going to be fully like, we're always going to have a little shame, there's always going to be a little shame. Look at Israel, Jewish people were told that land was for them and it was to protect the Jews from having a Holocaust again. That is like a huge curtain being pulled back right now for a lot of Jewish people, where they're like, what? Like, oh, we didn't realize that this is like annihilation of a complete population. Like, we thought this was for us. And I mean, lots of people who grew up indigenous all over the world are like, hey, nobody owns land. Okay, it's all colonization. So we're all learning perspectives, and we need to remind ourselves that people are on different levels and they just haven't got to the top of the video game yet. They haven't faced their boss of the video game yet. And so you have a lot of inner battles before you get to the mega boss to take down. And I think cancel culture feeds into this idea that like, oh, they just said something so homophobic or racist or whatever, and it's like, yeah, they did, but if we're both white people, we're all inherently racist. So like, we all came from this and they're still learning, so let's try to make them get to know what they're saying. Like, let's try to see why they believe that. Let's have a conversation about it. And I honestly love those conversations because it's exciting and it's crazy, like my mom and I were back in Philly a few years ago, and some family members were worried about us going to West Philadelphia it's a predominantly Black neighborhood. And I was like, that's so stupid. That was like that was the sweetest like experience I've had in a long time. Like it was fine. There's nothing. And we started talking about cops, and one of my family members was like, well, it's just that cops aren't like what they used to be. And I was like, oh, well, cops actually came from slavery. You know that, right? And like watching her mind just like take that in. And it's like people just don't know, you know, there's a lot of history that's been covered up. And so I think the best thing you can do is just meet people where they're at and have a conversation.
Yeah. What about for you, Emily?
I mean, I feel like that's it. I mean, I'm learning recently that as I'm a teacher and I'm a performer and I'm a mother, and all roads are kind of pointing back to, as much as I try to help or teach or be helped or taught, no one can truly tell me anything until I'm ready to learn what it is.
Yeah.
And I need to hear things multiple times for however long it takes before I'm like, ready to make a change. And my students are like that, and my kids like that. And I think learning to accept people for who they are, but also draw boundaries for yourself. If someone's substance issues are affecting your life, or if you're, like those kind of things, you can protect yourself from that. But otherwise, it's like people have to learn at their own pace, and your willingness to talk with someone at any point where they're at is also you learning as well, like, and not being a jerk to yourself for past situations that you might have handled poorly, but moving forward, and keeping that community like open to while still healthfully drawing boundaries.
Like also just like, okay, we're only gonna talk if we can lead a conversation with empathy here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that so much, Katie. Thank you. And thank you so much for being with us today. We really have loved having you. And I just adore you. And there are so many things about you that I adore. I love your art. Could you please tell us, where can we find your shows? Where can we find your art? Where can we just have all things Katie Bowman in our lives?
So my website's katiebowman.rocks, ROCKS. And all my handles and stuff are on there, but it's Katie Bowman Comedy for Instagram and TikTok. And then my art handle is the Curly Bush. And which is another great places to start.
Yay, awesome. Thank you. So follow the Curly Bush and Katie Bowman Comedy and buy things because they're amazing.
What's your comedy special called?
Oh, it'll be called Neurodivergent Nightmare, and it'll be out later this year. So follow me because I don't have a release date yet, but it's almost done being edited. So
so exciting. Thank you so much, Katie.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Honestly, dear listener. Woo.